Hello Kindred Longevity Lifestyle Designers, this is Gavin here with secretsoflongevity.com. Very few people understand what detoxification is and just how complicated it actually is. And I don't mean complicated in terms of it being difficult to actually do these different things for your body to be healthier, but rather complicated in how many different ways you can detoxify and should detoxify. Because a lot of people just think of detoxification in very simplistic terms. So they often think of their body as a complex system of pipes, and that there's gunk on the sides of the pipes, and you just have to like run Drano through it, and all this stuff just comes right out, and then you're clean. Within certain types of less educated health communities, they often use these key phrases like clean eating, or even the word detoxification is kind of a simplistic term. It doesn't do a good job of explaining how complex this process is of removing unnecessary compounds from our bodies that are burdening us down. But if we were to use that buzzword, detoxification, and start to describe it in the full way that it needs to be known, then I think we can start to shift these words to something that's more realistic, as opposed to jumping on the bandwagon of just doing these certain things that we're told are clean and detoxifying, but really it's only one part of a very small spectrum. So this video will be broken down into two sections. The first section, I'm going to go over the different types of things that we need to detoxify from our body. So each one of these is like a bigger category. And the second part of the video will be about the methods that you would use to initiate these different types of detoxification. So the biggest one that is addressed by the sort of common ideas of detoxification, at least in the clean eating idea, is the accumulation of metabolic toxins within our body. So there's a lot of processes that our body does just naturally, and we have waste products produced. Everything from carbon dioxide to lactic acid from using our muscles and exercising, various types of toxins created by individual organs from processing food and nutrients. And if we're in generally good health, the majority of this stuff naturally is secreted from our body through breathing, through sweating, through defecation, and through urination. And the most important side to this is that we just have most of this happening just on a day-to-day basis. Once in a while, it can be beneficial to do something that allows this to sort of accelerate in the expulsion of some of these things. And that's where you see the ideas of fasting, or going on a very low-fat, raw, and even vegan diet to flush out some of these things. But as my intent is to show with this video, that is by no means the majority of what we need to detoxify with our body, especially with our very much polluted environment that we live in today, no matter where you are on the planet. Yes, there's areas, of course, on the planet that are much less polluted, high up in the mountains, in very deep forested areas, in any area that's pretty far from major cities. You're going to have much cleaner air, much cleaner water, etc. But we need to take into account that there's a lot of other factors. So one a lot of people are familiar with and they start opening up to is the idea that there's different types of heavy metals that we accumulate with our body, and because we didn't evolve naturally having a lot of these in our environment in any great quantity, we actually lack a lot of ability to detoxify them on our own. So that's when you start to see the introduction of a lot of supplements to target these things, whether it's different types of microalgae, probably one of the best being chlorella for binding to and carrying out mercury. Then you have different types of clays that can be great for binding to both heavy metals, and in our next category I'll mention radioactive compounds that actually sort of makes them inert and then helps carry them out of the body. And we get exposed to these things, a lot of these heavy metals, from air pollution, from coal mining and burning of coal, gasoline being burned by cars. Of course, the pharmaceutical industry has introduced a lot of these things in the forms of vaccines, and there's preservatives and a lot of different things that contain heavy metals, unfortunately. You have aluminum, lead, all these things over the years that we've heard about as being very bad for us are still around us in the environment in various forms. And like I was saying, a lot of these things when they get into our body, we have a really hard time just naturally getting rid of them. So just going on a fast, a water fast, or a green juice fast is often nowhere near enough of an approach to actually address these things because they really cling into the tissues. So I touched on the next category, which would be radioactive compounds. You've probably heard of the Fukushima disaster, you've heard of other nuclear disasters, of course, the Chernobyl disaster in the, I guess it was the 80s, late 80s. Those two major incidences, along with all the really horrendous continual tests of nuclear weapons all around the world. It happens much more frequently than people think. There's been hundreds, if not thousands, of nuclear weapons discharged since the first nuclear bombs that were used on Japan. There's been lots of tests, both in the US and abroad, on soil, on land, but also in the water. You have a lot of the weaponry used in the more current wars with depleted uranium and things like that in the warheads and shells that are being shot by tanks and dropped in airplanes and other bombs and things. Then of course you have the nuclear facilities, power plants that have a certain degree of leakage, and the list goes on and on. We accumulate these things in various organs. The biggest one from nuclear reactors is radioactive iodine, and in the next section I'll get to the best ways to actually counteract radioactive pollutants and help detoxify these from the body. Another one that's often forgotten about is xenoestrogens. Everything from DDT, PCBs, phthalates. It's another very long list of which you can always find online just looking up the word xenoestrogen. And these are synthetic chemicals that mimic estrogens in the body. They wreak havoc on both men and women, wrecking fertility, wrecking endocrine health, and these are really important to protect against and also detoxify if we have them accumulated within our body, because they bind to estrogen receptor sites and we have to use certain things to get them out. And finally, the last area that I would say we could categorize under toxins, but these are often sort of grown in the body over time, reproduces. So parasites, fungus, bacteria, molds, yeast, and even viruses. And these things we need to sort of cut off the food supply to them if we want to get healthier, and then also do things to eliminate them. But we also want to do that in a manner that doesn't harm the good, beneficial bacteria within our body. We really want to create an ecosystem and health within our body that just makes the whole thing, not a suitable place for these things to live in. So what are the solutions? There's a lot to cover, but I'll do my best to talk about a lot of the general ones. I might make more videos about this in the future. This is just sort of to give you some ideas as to how profound this is, and how it's not just a one set idea approach, which is like, juice for 90 days and you'll be completely detoxified. It does not work that way. There's a lot of different things that you have to target in different ways, and you can't just take one thing like a magic bullet that will just, flush all the systems out. You need to systematically work on one at a time or two at a time through diet, supplementation, exercise, and these other things to facilitate the detoxification. And also think about this as a long-term, continual thing. It's not going to be something that you just do for a period of time and then stop doing. It's kind of a whole life continual thing, especially as we move forward into times where pollution of varying types are getting worse on our planet. There's definitely some benefit that's coming from all the environmental awareness campaigns that are going on, kind of curbing this explosion of issues, but there's still that acceleration of certain types of toxins that are being put out into our environment, unfortunately. So if we talk about broad dietary approaches, first of all, you heard me talk about the very general sort of mainstream, at least mainstream within the alternative health community, idea that you want to go low fat, almost vegan type of diet, and that's considered cleansing. Yes, that has a certain ability to cleanse metabolic toxins of varying types, and that can be a beneficial thing to do for a set period of time. Or if your unique biochemistry works well long term on that, that's fine too. I'm not trying to be dictatorial and saying you only do this for X amount of time. It's really about feeling what works best for you, but also acknowledging these other ways that the body detoxifies, not just saying our way of eating is the best way to detoxify and it's a detoxify all the time diet. So, doing week-long fasts or few day fasts of varying types can be great. I'm totally open to people experimenting with that. Ideally, you don't want to be doing these super long term because you run into deficiencies of varying types of things that can hamper your other avenues of detoxification actually. So another big one is actually deficiency. So a lot of people think of toxins coming from excess, so you eat a diet that has excess calories or excess this, that, and the other thing, and your body produces metabolic toxins because it can't keep up in the flushing of things out of your body. The other problem is that when you don't get certain key nutrients, there's other detoxification pathways within your body that don't function as well. So one example is the liver. It produces a lot of glutathione, and if you do not have the right types of proteins in the right balance within your diet, you don't have enough of that antioxidant to help detoxify a lot of different areas of your body. So if you haven't heard of it, glutathione is a very key antioxidant, really recognized in terms of its anti-aging qualities and wonderful effects on the whole body. But you want to have elevated levels of this on an ongoing basis. It's something that's seen to drop as people age. And it's made of 3 amino acids: glycine, glutamate, and cysteine. Glycine and glutamate we get in a variety of different foods. If you're eating animal foods especially, you're getting adequate amounts of it. But cysteine is somewhat rare in that there's actually 2 different types of cysteine. There's cysteine without the 2 E's at the end. I'll just put it on the screen here so you can see. Cysteine is an amino acid, but cysteine with the E's indicates 2 cysteine without the E molecules with a double bond. So there's actually cysteine with only 1 bond, which is what happens when you take a double bonded cysteine and heat it or process it in some way, and that bond breaks. And when we consume the cysteine that only has the 1 bond, it breaks apart in digestion and we actually can't utilize it. And it can even be slightly inflammatory. When we get the double bonded cysteine, that's absorbed right into the areas of our body where it's needed, and that facilitates a number of other processes, but especially the production of glutathione, because we get enough of that double bonded cysteine that brings the cysteine without a bond right to that site. So basically, almost every traditional cultures, if we're talking pre-agricultural type cultures, tribal cultures, indigenous peoples, almost always had some type of raw animal food in their diet. This allowed them to get adequate amounts of double bonded cysteine in there because cooking breaks down that double bond, making it unusable essentially. So whether it's a raw organ meat, liver's a popular one, or raw dairy was another popular one that contains the double bonded cysteine, or raw sushi, like raw fish of some kind, it's almost always been consumed somewhere within these indigenous diets. It could be raw insects, it could be raw animal fat from seals if you're in the Arctic. That's what the Inuit would have been eating, or raw fish. But if you're particularly squeamish or you don't do well with the various things that can come with dairy, whether it's raw or not, there is another option, which is organic, undenatured whey protein. This has been pasteurized, but not above a certain level past, because we can't just think of things as raw or cooked. It's actually a grade in terms of past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a lot of enzymes that are degraded, but then there's other things that degrade at higher and higher temperatures. So this double bond actually breaks up in the high hundreds, so 180, 190, 200 plus, which is good because there's actually certain types of pasteurization, low temperature pasteurization, that's around the 160 mark, which can allow products like this to be produced and have some of these good properties without losing all the good properties, and that can give us the double bonded cysteine. So there's actually links below for a few products I'm going to mention that can aid in the detoxification process. The undenatured whey is one of them. It's pretty hard to find a good undenatured whey because so many of them have so many additives, whether it's just a few simple ingredients to a whole slew of weird binders and fillers and excipients. This is the only one I've ever been able to find that has only one ingredient, which is undenatured whey. There's not even stevia, so you can add your own stevia if you want to sweeten up, or whatever type of sweetener you want to add to it if you need one. And it's a great addition to drinks. It's a great addition if you're active and you need that really easily digestible protein that is a very wide spectrum of amino acids, and also has that unique anti-aging component in there with some of these compounds which are damaged by heat and you don't get in the more conventional type whey protein. So I'm not really an advocate of conventional way, only undenatured way. If you can't get that, then the next thing I recommend is things like sun warrior protein. But that's not going to have the double bond cysteine, so that's another topic for another day. I mean, you could get really in-depth talking about all the different nutrients that you need for different types of cellular detoxification, different types of organ detoxification. Vitamin A is another big one, and a lot of people have trouble creating vitamin A from plant foods. So that's retinol is vitamin A. A lot of people think beta-carotene automatically means vitamin A. It does not. About 1/3 of people might be able to convert enough beta-carotene to retinol, but so a lot of people need actually an animal food source of vitamin A. You find in egg yolks, animal fat, especially if it's been consuming a lot of grass and been out on pasture or wild. There's a large amount of it in the livers of animals, a large amount in raw grass-fed dairy, of course. So there's a whole wide range of different minerals. Selenium's another big one for detoxification. Vitamins, nutrients that we need to be getting from whole foods and a wide range of foods, both animal and plant, ideally, in my opinion, that facilitate detoxification in many different ways. Too numerous to talk about in this video. Another thing people need to remember is that when it comes to the liver, detoxifying the liver, and it's a huge organ of elimination, really important one to address. And springtime is the time you want to be detoxifying the liver. Organic schizandra extract is the preeminent liver detoxifier. It's a stage 1 and stage 2 detoxification herb. It's great in combination with other types of methyl donors like goji berries, beets, even MSM. That just sort of powerhouses that stage 1 detoxification pathway. And stage 2 is like where all those toxins coming out of the liver are actually carried out through the organs of elimination and made sure to not be reabsorbed and reintroduced into the body. So Lucedera's schizandra products, which are pretty new, it's a pretty new company, but of course a lot of you are familiar with Brandon from Hyperion Herbs. He's helped start this company up, and it's an organic schizandra extract grown in the US. You don't have the quality standard issues with products coming over from China, extracts from there. So it's very fresh. It's got that vibrant pink color. I'll link you to a video here if you want to check out a recent recipe I did where I used this in combination with a bunch of other things, including goji berry extract, to make a delicious drink, if you're wondering how you can even use this stuff. Some other key things that help with detoxification are, of course, fiber. A lot of people acknowledge this and are aware that fiber helps pull things out of the body. It has a mop-like way that it works, and it traps things in it and carries them out. That can be both beneficial and hazardous in that we could be trapping a lot of good nutrients from being absorbed, which you see from certain plant fibers, especially in improperly processed grains, trapping minerals and carrying them out in the form of phytic acids and things like that. But of course you see a huge benefit with a lot of different plant fibers that carry out toxins and prevent them from being reabsorbed once they do get deposited into the digestive tract. The thing that's often forgotten, however, and perhaps even more crucial and powerful than fiber for detoxification, is fat. A lot of people have this weird program in their mind. I have no idea where it came from except for pointing the finger at certain groups that, again, don't have good education on basic biology in the health community. But fats bind to and store toxins. Why do you think there's all this talk about people who are overweight need to take their weight loss slowly, or they need to have certain things in place to make sure that as they lose the weight, those toxins are actually coming out of them and not being reabsorbed? Fats hold toxins. It's well known and well established. So if they hold toxins, you can imagine what fat going through your body during digestion does. It actually helps bind to and carry out excess pollutants of varying types, from heavy metals to metabolic toxins. Basically anything that is excess in our body that we just don't need in such great excess. Another one of the most powerful detoxifying compounds or nutrients is chlorophyll. That's why greens are so important for virtually any lifestyle. Greens are one of the foods you see in almost every nutritional program, and no one really disagrees that they're beneficial. There's definitely people who do say that, silly enough, but pretty much everyone's saying eat greens, and you should be eating greens 2, 3, 4 servings a day, if not more. The chlorophyll is like a cage to most specifically mercury, but also some other heavy metals. It traps it and carries it out in its inert form. And on the other hand, you also get the magnesium from chlorophyll, which helps in various types of detoxification. A lot of people are deficient in magnesium. That then shuts down various types of detoxification pathways. So get your chlorophyll. Some of the richest sources of chlorophyll are, again, the microalgae, chlorella being the big one, but also Aphanizomenon flossaqua, which is the Klamath-like blue-green algae, is big. Spirulina is great as well. You can find all three in the links below if you want to check those out and see if they work for you. Then, of course, another big one is gut flora. Having the right types of bacteria present throughout your digestive tract, throughout your body, that facilitate greater health overall, but also help break down toxins and turn them into inert compounds that are then carried out through normal elimination processes. If you want to learn how to make your own fermented vegetables, I highly recommend checking out this video here, which is from not too long in the past, where there was a workshop I went to put on by a friend, and I took some film from it and made a great summary of how to make your own fermented veggies. Of course, fermented dairy and other types of fermented foods are excellent as well. Work with whatever one works best for you. And if none of them work for you, then consider a probiotic supplement on occasion to help keep that gut flora really healthy and happy. The last two often overlooked methods of detoxification, which are very important, that would apply to all types of detoxification, is, and you can do them both at once if you're doing the right types, but exercise and sweating. So you could exercise in various forms to get, we're talking about getting circulation up in any form, yoga, more cardio-based, more strength-based. All these things will help with moving the blood around the body. Sweating could come as a result of exercise, but it could also be done separately in like a sauna type scenario or hot yoga or these other things. That just helps get the pores open and get the lymph flowing outwards from your body, which is a big detoxification pathway. And of course, there's the added benefit of increased breathing rates with exercise, which is again going to start exchanging those gases. That is another form of detoxification for the body. It's kind of an old story. I don't know if there's a hard fact of this written in any kind of medical journal or anything, but it's known that coyotes and a lot of different animals, namely predators, which don't have sweat glands, they detoxify a lot through the breath. So sometimes they'll get poisoned by a farmer that's trying to protect the chickens or whatever. They've left out bait that will poison the animal, and they can almost intuitively know that they've been poisoned, and they'll just start running and run and run and run, and they'll pant off the toxins, and which is quite remarkable because we often think of toxins being these physical things, but they can be broken down by our body and escape in gases. And there are other toxins in their gas form that we need to eliminate besides just carbon dioxide, whether it's a metabolic toxin or toxins from other things. Our body knows how to get rid of these. And I just remembered I forgot to talk about radioactive compounds and detoxifying those. Various things will detoxify them that I've already mentioned, especially things like chlorophyll-rich foods. But the biggest ones for that is clays. So whether it's bentonite clay or some of these newer clays that are out there. Survival is a great clay that has a mixture of things in there. So there's some volcanic clays that are really specialized for being very profound in what they can bind to. And this was something that was done by a lot of indigenous people, is geophagy, which is the consumption of soil, essentially, or clays. It's done by most animals. They intuitively know that we need to have some amount of clay in our diet, and the animals know this, to help detoxify it. And it detoxifies a lot more than just radioactive compounds too. It can be great for metabolic toxins, toxins of all types. So let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. I know it went on a little longer than I meant to. I thought it was going to be a really short one. But I covered what I needed to cover, and it was important that you listen through this whole thing, because I think a lot of people don't realize just how broad of a definition of what detoxification is, and how there are all these different processes that we need to address on intermittent basis in different ways. It's not always just one way, and we can ignore the others. So also check out the links below if you want to use any of the products mentioned. There's a few of them, from the algae to the whey protein to even some of the clays. And with that, I'll talk to you next time. Take care and embrace life without limits.